moment to speak. I do want to make some remarks about this. I've told the director of ESP, and I think I've even said this publicly at the committee meetings or maybe the council meetings. There's a few votes that I've taken in the 5.5 years that if I could go back and change them, I would. But there's really only one vote I ever made that I really regret, and it might not seem like that big of an issue to somebody, but to me it turned out to be just a huge mistake on my part, and it had to do with ESP and plumbers. That ESP, in a response to Ivan and Dennis, had gotten into what some people called the plumbing business, because you guys were just so covered up with everything else that some of these little jobs that had to do with running gas lines and water heaters wasn't anywhere near as big as an insurance job that you're going to get on a damaged house. And I don't blame you for that, but it put ESP in a position where they had to service their customers. I think naively, I looked at it at the time as government competing with private business. And I've come around a long ways on that ESP is a business. It's not a government function. It operates like a business. It makes a profit like a business does. And so I have learned to make that distinction. But let me tell you the reason that my vote has haunted me so much. People not even knowing that the city owns ESP. I'll be talking to a buddy of mine, and he'll say, you know what? I want to go with gas, but I've been trying to get a plumber over there. This is after there was a fairly nasty fight to be able to kick ESP out of that business. And since I've been trying to get a plumber over there for 2 months, and the guy keeps promising to come and says he came and he dug up my yard, and then he went away for a month. And that they just said, we can't get anybody to come out here and do this. I don't know why ESP ever stopped doing that. And that's been 3 different friends of mine that have said that. And as far as I know, they don't even know that this city council sits as kind of like the board of directors for this enterprise. So this is going to be a tough sell for me. And some may say it's apples and oranges. I'm not so sure that we've got a service that, as the board of directors for ESP, are being asked to provide to its customers and future customers, and I don't want to tie their hands on that. But I'm open for discussion to hear from you and my fellow board of directors, and I'm going to call on Dr. Wu first.
Thank you very much, Councilman Hall. I remember that night quite well because the room was full of plumbers. Mm-hmm. As I recall, I think I was the only vote in favor of ESP. Mm-hmm. And I don't blame anybody for how they voted, but my basis, what I want to do is explain why I voted the way I did. ESP is not only an enterprise committee of the city. It's like the airport and other enterprise functions. They're charged with making money. The money that they make, the profit in past years, has allowed us to pass through $6 to $8 million of services to our citizens without having to tax them. So in other words, it's not just money that's earned, it's money that's earned that allows us as a council to provide fire, police, and other services to our citizens without increasing their taxes. The second point is that if Mr. Suarez, I wish he was here, but I've asked him ever since we made that ruling to forbid ESP from putting in those installations, what's happened to natural gas growth. And the answer is plummeted since that time period. I don't have the exact figures, but I think once I can get them to you, it will show that they've been, you know, well, I'll let you go in just a minute.
Mr. Wood,
I'm just
like,
let me finish.
Go ahead.
no, I'm just, I don't have a lot of storage up here, and
Right.
with your addressing me and then you addressing me,
Right.
I'm getting behind on my thought process.
Okay. We don't mean to put, no, we don't mean.
Blanket over me.
No, we don't mean to overwhelm you.
You know, I would have to disagree that any of that had to do with the ESP sales, because I have to tell y'all that my income has plummeted since then. I believe everybody's income has plummeted since 08. We've had record number of closes, so it's directly related to the market. And as far as Mr. President basically saying that the local plumbers are providing a lousy service, that's basically what I was just told. Well, I disagree. You know, that's 3 people. We satisfy thousands. I wished it was thousands now, but it's not.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, so what happened is that, and Councilman Mack was on, I think, council at the time we had the discussion. If you go and look at the data, what happens is if you don't get a house when it's built, from what I'm told, it can be up to 10 years before you ever have a conversion. We really compete against Gulf Power. They advertise every single day. And so they give it all kind of incentives and whatever. And to compete with them, we have to do the same type of thing. If they're doing something that's detrimental to your business, then you know, I don't think the purpose of what we're doing here is to do that. But when you're providing $6 to $8 million of tax-free services to your citizens, that's something that I think we have to look at very seriously.
Well, the biggest issue I have with it, Gulf Power is not setting up meetings, having price-fixing meetings, and not notifying. And whenever
for a second.
when y'all did,
Mr. Gerald's wanted to interject here.
Yes, and thank you for the opportunity to do that, because in the interest of opportunity and preparation for this discussion that we're going to put on the committee of the whole meeting.
Well, I'm not so sure about this. This has been a decision of the executive. The policy, as far as I know, is put into place. I don't know what our ability is to overturn that. And so the discussion may be here moot. I think it's interesting. And Mr. Reynolds may have an answer for us on that.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. This was not a decision of the executive. It was a recommendation of the executive that was approved by this body.
Right.
So I just want to be clear.
Right. Through the budget process last year, right?
It was actually post-budget process, and Mr. Barker can probably give a little more clarity than I can on that, but it was during some of the post-budget discussions. And the only issue that council had at that point, because this is not the same program that was voted down that night.